Okay, marketing rock stars, it's homework time. Go ahead and download the brand audit sheet. It's a Google spreadsheet. If you have not done so already, stop the video, go download it. You're going to need it. You can modify the template that I have for you or create your own out of Excel or whatever you like to use that looks like this and does what this one does. So I've just done a very loose and cursory sheet for you here. Definitely go into this and add in your own rows of content. This is just to get you started and just to give you some basic structure. It's useful to think about your top of funnel content, your mid funnel content, your bottom of funnel content. There's definitely overlap there, okay? Because as I explained before, how your audience experiences your brand is a flywheel. They don't go through this step by step that you want them to, because I would love it. We would all love it if that's what your audience did, if we could control the order that they explore things and the order that they see things. But the fact of the matter is your buyer group is going to be all over the place because they interact with each other. One may share a link with another person in the buyer group. They might share a video with someone else. They might share a PDF sheet. And you want that to happen. That's awesome when that starts to happen, because when that dynamic happens with your buyer group, that means you are starting to get credibility with the group when they start sharing things amongst themselves. Let's have a look at your materials, how this can kind of be organized. It's still useful to think of certain blocks of content as being top of funnel. Those are your outreach types of content, such as events. The top of funnel is more aggressive types of content that goes out, you find your audience, you meet them where they are, and you're in their face. It could be an event, trade show, big display, live salespeople coming out and talking to prospects. It could be your advertising, ads showing up on LinkedIn or in Reddit or certain channels where you're confident that your audience is. Those types of things. So it could also be outreach emails, where if you get a very confident intent to buy type of signals from your AI tools that may show maybe it's a new company and they're starting to hire new people. Your product could be a good fit if it's management software for organization or helping their teams or whatever that is. You can get intent signals from Cognism and Instantly, Clay, different kinds of software out there. The AI software is really fantastic, really wonderful stuff these days that's coming. And it seems like new ones are coming out every week to target your audience. So let's start to get together your content as your prospects experience it. Middle of funnel stuff, certainly your website, maybe a capability video, some solution pages on your website. Then your bottom of funnel, you might have a battle card sheet, which is a guide sheet for your sales team to help them overcome objections, and maybe a one-on-one slide deck for those live presentations. You want all of your content to have the consistent messaging blocks that we developed in Module 2, and it's okay to use exactly the same messaging block on a PDF solution brief as you would on the website, as you would on a one-on-one slide deck. You may modify that content a little bit, expand on it a little bit more in your one-on-one slide deck, certainly than you would an ad like a LinkedIn ad or something like that. But you want to have consistency with your tone, your style, and the actual benefits and features that you're promoting, and definitely the graphic design as well. So here we are on the sheet. Go ahead and list out your items, assets, add your rows in here, get your content where you start to reviewing it. Your second column here under the rating, or the third column actually, under the rating, where you have number 1, number 2, number 3, you want to categorize what needs to happen with this content. You're going to find that a lot of your content might be pretty good. Your sell sheet might be right in line with your one-on-one presentations, and the marketing might be, or the messaging might be right in line with what's on your website. And so maybe just some of the graphic design is a little clunky in between those different components. The graphic design does not have to exactly match in all of those all your different content, although it's certainly okay if you use exactly the same photo or the same illustrations across the different content. Definitely okay to do that, especially if you're talking to a certain prospect within your buyer group. But it might need some tightening up. Maybe some of it's in a completely different style. You might be using a funny cartoon or animated style on a solution brief, and then you go over onto your website and things might look more serious with photography and special effects in your photography that give them a more sophisticated look. The goal here is to start to pull all of this together so that all of your content certainly looks like it's coming from the same company. So you can start to code this stuff with number 1 being where the graphics and the copy need to be reworked. So that piece of content's going to need, probably a complete overhaul. Number 2 is going to be your copy is good, maybe your copy is consistent, but the graphic design might need some help or some updating along the way. And that's very common with a lot of the companies that I've worked with. And then number 3, good to go as is. So these are just little menu items. You can click on these and code them for yourself. And then the notes column, you might want to put in there a little more detail about what needs to be edited or updated. So if it's a solution brief, for example, or a data sheet, maybe it's just the opening paragraph needs to have the same benefits that you're using on the website, or the updated benefits that you developed after completing module 2 when we did the messaging. The notes can help you target a little more specifically what needs to happen with each of your individual pieces. It's helpful when you're auditing your brand to create a page or a series of pages in your idea catcher system, your digital idea catcher system, and start to make some screen captures of all the different elements that you're going to be evaluating. It's just really useful to see all of these in one layout and be able to scroll around and experience this somewhat as your prospect experiences it, as your prospect goes from the website to a sheet to a video, and they start to look at those things. And this kind of helps you understand what is consistent with what. And some of these things might stand out as a sore thumb that you need to go in and fix. So this is just a real quick sample that I threw together using a product and a company that I helped them with their brand evolution. And so I worked up some graphic design to rebrand their logo a little bit and apply a color palette and some fonts and things like that. So here's a sample of what you can do. We're having a look here at sort of a mood board sheet over here right here, showing fonts, different icon treatments, photo treatments, all on one board to just get a real overview of where we can go or where we're proposing to go with this particular design direction. You got a sheet over here showing a downloadable PDF sheet. Over here, treatment of icons and how those can look across the different product groups, and the actual product interface itself and how the brand elements of the different icon treatments would be applied to the product itself and the overall look and feel. Then showing the website treatment here, just showing a resource page with how things can look across the web. And then over here we've got an ad. I think this could be a LinkedIn ad, for example, or an ad in an industry newsletter, blog, something like that. So as you can see, you can scroll around here and just get an overview very quickly to see if there are any fonts that are out of alignment. I see here that the fonts that we have specified to use on the data sheets, for example, on the website are different than the product itself. So we'll want to have the programming team get those in alignment with the brand standards. And then we want to have a look at the value statements and the overall copy tone, the branded voice that we're using. We're going to, as we discussed previously, is the voice casual, or is it straight professional? If it is straight professional, what keeps it from being boring? So go ahead and set up a brand audit sheet for yourself in whatever your system is that you're using for your idea catcher system. And you can make notes. This is what I love about this thing. You can move notes around all over the place here. And I hope you find this useful with your brand audit task. I've seen a $50 million company pitch $1 million deal with a PowerPoint deck that looks like it was put together by monkeys with epilepsy. 5 different salespeople all contributing to the deck that turned it into a brand monstrosity. This communicates to your prospect team that your company is sloppy, unprofessional, and possibly incompetent. And this company had a brand standards guide as a PDF, but it was not used or distributed properly. We want to establish brand consistency because consistency helps foster trust and credibility. Make sure all touch points are consistent. Web design, email signature, videos, slide presentations, the whole schmear. So we're going to go into the brand basic checklist. This is a Google Doc. If you have not uploaded this yet, go ahead and upload it and open this up, have a look. I just have the bare bones basics listed in this checklist sheet. These are the absolute bit. If you're a starting company, a starting SaaS company, and you're just starting it in your mother's basement with your college buddies, this is the basic checklist that, believe it or not even some $50 million companies have this. So go through here, check out my notes, check out each checklist item. Make sure you have this. Get a hold of a professional graphic designer. If you can't afford that, there are templates on Envato and iStock and templates all over the internet that are brand guideline templates. So make sure you put this together to define your brand, give it structure. This is the foundation. Remember on the whiteboard over here where I did the blue line with the brand foundation of the fonts and the look and feel and the tone of your messaging, all of that. That's what this is about. That's what we're putting together here. If you need help, go ahead and hire a professional graphic designer or an agency. If you can't afford that, then just go to envato.com or iStock and check out some of the templates that are there and start to work with those. Here's a sample of a style guide and a brand identity system that I put together for a company a few years ago. Here's the basic logo. Notice that there's links here to get the raster files, the vector files for Adobe, such as EPS files if you're working in one of the Adobe programs, or SVG files of the logo if you're working in Microsoft programs. Alternate treatments of the logo within shapes. There are different logo variations that we use with this particular company. And we specify out the color spectrum here in the PMS, also the hex and the RGB. Notice that I have a collection of grays. I frequently like to do this with just about any standards guide that I do these days. I like to have a collection of either warm or cool grays, especially for digital applications. Here's a secondary for a business subsidiary. This is a secondary guide for, they had a little bit different color palette that they were working with. And then, of course, the font treatments here, we just simplified. They used to have 8 different fonts that they were working with here, and we simplified it down to a single font family, but using all of the different weights within that family. So the lightweight and the bold and the semi-bold, and that gives you a really nice variety with your needs, with your typographic needs. But it also creates a solid consistency for the way your typeface looks across your different assets. Then here we're specifying graphical elements and the style of icons, and then how the icons would be colorized. And here we're specifying ways that we're saying it's okay to use a portion of the logo as sort of a wallpaper or a decorative element with other graphical things. And you'll find that companies like Nike do this a lot with their swoosh. They'll use patterns of the swoosh and the swoosh backwards or forwards, and any color you can possibly imagine. But you still want to put parameters around that and control what's going on with that. So you don't want the logo to be so warped or so changed or distorted that it doesn't look like it's from the same company anymore. Photography treatment, the style of photos and the types of photos that we would probably use. And also how this looks when it all comes together on the website or other digital applications. Here we have some digital ad samples, how the size of the logo, how small it can go when it's reproduced. And then print ad specifications as well. Notice we are allowing a variety of style here with photography versus illustration. So we're not just limiting the graphic design to be only a certain type of stock photo look. We're also opening this up to an illustrative look, because for this particular company, they have different markets, different industries that they go into. And so to allow that flexibility, remember what I drew on the board, the campaigns, and you may very well have different campaigns that you're designing for and producing content for. So you want to have the flexibility there to work with imagery that can support those different audiences and those different campaigns. Here we're doing a sub-brand that takes some of the elements of the core brand for the company, and we're using this for a campaign. And this is an extended campaign that was designed to go on for a year, maybe 2 years. So we're taking elements of that logo look and feel and then extending it into this campaign. And then also we're extending it into sub products, but giving everything a consistent look and feel. You can see with the Spark logo that we have going on there with all of these different branded names, they all still look like they're from the same company. And then to show examples of how it all comes together, the fonts, colors, logos, icons within solution briefs or promotional sell sheets, data sheets, things like that. Here we're showing how the sub-branding would work across the website, and we're trying not to allow the sub-branding to clash with the corporate branding. And how this can work across printed material or digital ads. And also another illustration here of how the sub-branded campaign can still complement the brand of the company itself. Email signatures, all the details. So we try to dial everything in. I didn't even show you the trade show materials yet, but we're trying to cover the full spectrum of the prospect experience. So you get the idea here. Now, what I just showed you with those examples were put together on a PDF file. We put that file together as a preliminary planning document before we went to digital. And I strongly recommend that you do not do your graphic standards guide as a PDF file. That's how it's been done in the past by multiple companies, and it just makes a mess out of things because you're going to have different evolutions of your brand, your sub-brands, your campaigns. Companies change, especially these days. They're changing very rapidly. Your company may come out with a new product. You may acquire another company or acquire another product and want to rebrand it. So your brand is somewhat like your website in a continuous state of evolution. When you have PDF files that have been scattered around with your sales team and your production people and your vendors, like your trade show people and your swag people, your freelance graphic designers and your freelance agencies, they all have different versions of your PDF file, and things start to get real messy real fast. I strongly recommend that you put your brand guide together on a web page or a platform, a brand platform. This is especially critical if you are an international company. You have offices around the globe, and you need to make sure that you have brand consistency internationally. So for this particular company, we use that PDF file as a guide to do a self-check and a self-audit to make sure that things were going to work well. And then I went ahead and built on the website. This was pretty easy to do. It wasn't real complicated, but I built a standards guide on the website, just passcode, password protected, so that people within the company can all get to it. By the way, a lot of companies, Starbucks included, are putting their brand standards open for public use. And there's some controversy around this. Some people think it's a great idea. I happen to think it's a good idea. Other companies don't like it because they think it makes it easy for rip-off artists to steal their logo and steal their colors and steal their look and feel and do copycat brands. But if a company is going to rip off your look and feel, they're going to find ways to do it without going into your standards guide. So my tendency is to put your brand guide on a web page. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your main menu item of your website. It could be a URL that is a little secretive, or that somebody needs the URL. But I would just have it available publicly. It makes it so much easier for suppliers, especially if you're an international company and somebody in India is doing a trade show and they need a version of a layout or a font or a background treatment or something like that. At what happens to be 2:00 in the morning in California time or whatever. Anyway, so here's the web page for the brand standards guide we did for this particular company. It's very straightforward, easy to use. I'm taking advantage of the accordion menu function, which is very common across just about every website. You have a title item. It's frequently used for FAQs. You have a title, you click on the title, you get a drop-down menu, and you can have all kinds of content within that drop-down menu. You can have graphics in there or links to other files, or even videos within your drop-down menu. So that's the structure that I used here. It worked out really well for this company. I kept it very simple by having obviously the very large name of what the item is over off on the left, and then on to the right. Just make it really, really easy for people. If you're using a Macintosh application, that's where you have your EPS files. And if you're using a Microsoft application, that's where you have your SVG files. The SVG files, vector files of your logo, they'll look great in Excel, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, all those programs. And then, of course, for digital, you're going to have your PNG files with a transparent background of your PNG graphics. And it's good to have different versions of your logo, the white reverse version of a logo, the full color version, a black and white version. So here, as you cruise down the specifications here, it's easy to find the different categories, whether it's a sub-branded logo types, you want to get specifications on that, your colors, your fonts. For fonts, I like to just use Google Fonts and then have a link to the Google page where the font is so that it can be easily downloaded. That works great across websites as well, because in the code, you can force the download of the font when the web page is opened up so that your fonts are distinctive and consistent across your different media. Here we're showing what it looks like when you click on those topical categories. You get the pop-down menu of the specifications around the logo. I always have do's and don'ts with logos that tell people, do not warp the logo or stretch it. Don't try to recolorize the logo. Basically just letting your company know not to get too creative with the company logo. They want to keep it in its proportions. We have the different files available here that make it easy for people to find what they're looking for and what version of the logo they need. So, for example, somebody using Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word may not even know what an SVG file is. Most people don't know the difference between a vector EPS file and a vector SVG file. But if you make it easy for them and say, Microsoft applications, download this logo. Macintosh applications, download this logo. It just makes it easier, especially if you have international salespeople who need access to your graphics. Again, I'm just showing here what it looks like when you pop open another menu item and you have the sub-brand items also specified. And these files are easy to capture and download. In some cases, it's useful to have an entire brand package, a zip file that has the fonts, the logo versions, a color palette sheet with all the hex numbers for the color palette, just as a single download zip file. That's been very handy as well, so people can just grab that one thing, load it to their local drive, and have access to the different elements that they need. It's very handy for out-of-house freelancers and agencies to just have the whole package available. Also in your style sheet, I didn't show you a sample of this here, but make sure that you have a sample of your voice writing. So you want to have a headline, a subhead, and bullet points, and several paragraphs, maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs of text showing the style and the voice and the vocabulary that you're using in your writing. And this sample is very useful for freelance writers, for example, who the marketing department might be working with. It can be useful for someone writing a press release who may not work for the company, but you can forward the style guide to them for a writing sample. It's also useful for AI. You can feed that sample into an AI engine such as Perplexity, and you can train Perplexity to write in your branded style, to be a writing agent for you. And this is very cool. You can train it even to use short sentences combined with long sentences, whatever buzzwords your industry uses or your company has, whatever product names that you have, can all be fed into an AI, and you can start to direct it to help you get copy together for all the different content that you're going to need for your sell sheets, your LinkedIn posts that you'll probably want to do at least once a week, if not once a day, your different blog posts that you're going to want to do at least once a month for blog writing. So the AIs are not quite yet sophisticated enough to where you can just go let them drive hands off, right? Where you can just tell it to write something and go, okay, here you go, and then upload it to the internet. But they're getting really, really good, especially if you train them to work with your branded voice and with your specifications for your company. So you can read through it, and in the time it takes to read through it and make a few iterations here and there, modify some things, maybe edit some things out, that saves you loads of time. At least I've found that I'm able to put copy together probably 3 times faster than I was before the AI models came out. Another thing that's useful to have in your standards guide is a section for your salespeople. To have a template section for your salespeople where they can capture PowerPoint files or slide decks, for example, that's a master slide deck where they can just delete things that they don't need and then capture things that are useful to them. And also your sell sheets there, or your data sheets, your solution briefs, even samples of writing for a cold outreach email or a follow-up email. It's a really good idea to have a content section for sales enablement on your website that is also internationally available or available 24/7. And when you update things on the website, whether it has to do with your logo look and feel or your writing, whatever content you're doing, you can simply blast a URL out to all the users who are registered with your site. So you can evolve your standards and evolve your voice and let your users know immediately when things are updated. And that way you don't have 50 different people all over the planet using different versions of a PDF file for your brand standards. They all have a single source of a gold standard that they can go to and that they use for the different components. So when you evolve things, it's very easy to update everybody, and they just go to the link, they log in, and everything they need is right there. Section 3.4 is some randalizations. I used to call this tips from the trenches, but I've since branded it under randalizations because I thought that was fun. And these are principles and guideposts that I've come up with or discovered through the years and also recently that I would like to share with you and that I think would be useful. So have a look at these, and I hope these are useful for you.